Before the T-34 became one of the most famous tanks of World War II, the Soviet Union was already experimenting with a new idea: a tank built around speed. This was the BT series. Unlike most tanks of its time, the BT was designed with incredible mobility in mind. Thanks to its unique Christie suspension, some versions could even remove their tracks and continue driving on their wheels. It was fast, unusual, and unlike almost anything else on the battlefield. But speed came with a cost. Could a tank built to move faster than its enemies actually survive modern warfare? This is the story of the BT-7, the Soviet fast tank that helped shape the future of armored warfare. The story of the BT series did not begin in the Soviet Union. Its origins can be traced back to an American engineer named J. Walter Christie. Christie developed a new type of suspension system that allowed tanks to move quickly across difficult terrain. The design caught the attention of the Soviet Union, which saw the potential of creating highly mobile armored vehicles. In the early 1930s, the Soviet Union purchased Christie designs and began developing its own versions. These early vehicles became known as the BT series, starting with the BT-2. The BT-2 was only the beginning. Over time, the design was improved with better weapons, stronger armor, and more reliable equipment. The BT-5 introduced a larger gun, while the BT-7 became the most advanced and widely produced version of the series. The goal was clear: create a tank that could move quickly across the vast distances of the Soviet Union and support fast-moving operations. But turning an ambitious idea into a battlefield weapon would prove much harder than expected. One of the BT tank's most remarkable features was its ability to operate both on tracks and on wheels. When traveling on roads, the crew could remove the tracks and drive using only the large road wheels. Power was transferred to the rear wheels, allowing the tank to continue moving without its tracks. Although the process took time, it reduced wear on the tracks during long journeys. Another key advantage was the Christie suspension. Its large coil springs gave the tank a smoother ride across rough terrain than many contemporary designs. This allowed the crew to maintain higher speeds while improving stability over uneven ground. However, the system also had its drawbacks. Removing and reinstalling the tracks was impractical during combat, meaning the wheel drive feature was mainly useful during transport rather than on the battlefield. Even so, the BT series became one of the most innovative tank designs of its time, introducing ideas that would influence future Soviet armored vehicles. Despite its advanced design, the BT series would eventually face the true test of any tank: combat. BT tanks first saw major combat during the late 1930s, including the Soviet-Japanese border conflicts in Mongolia. There, Soviet forces learned important lessons about armored warfare and the weaknesses of their early tanks. The BT series also played a major role during the Winter War against Finland from 1939 to 1940. In the harsh conditions of Finland, many BT tanks struggled with difficult terrain, limited protection, and enemy anti-tank weapons. However, the story of the BT series in Finland did not end there. Several captured BT tanks were repaired and used by the Finnish army. These vehicles remained in Finnish service for several years, showing that captured enemy equipment could still be valuable when properly maintained. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, large numbers of BT tanks were still in service. They fought in the early battles of the Eastern Front, but the rapid changes of armored warfare exposed many of their limitations. The BT series was not a perfect tank, but its combat experience provided valuable lessons that would shape the future of Soviet armored vehicles. The BT series was produced in several different versions, each improving on the last. The BT-2 was the first production model, armed with either machine guns or a 37mm gun. It was followed by the BT-5, which introduced the more powerful 45mm cannon that became standard on later models. The most successful version was the BT-7. It featured improved armor, a redesigned hull, and better reliability while keeping the high mobility that defined the entire series. The final major variant, the BT-7M, replaced the gasoline engine with a more reliable diesel engine. Most BT tanks carried a crew of 3, a commander, a driver, and a loader, who also operated the hull machine gun on many versions. Armor protection remained relatively light, ranging from around 6 to 22mm, depending on the model and location. While this helped keep the tanks fast, it also made them vulnerable to anti-tank guns. Although the BT series was eventually replaced, its influence on Soviet tank development would continue for many years to come. Although the BT series was eventually replaced by newer designs, its influence lived on. The experience gained from the BT tanks helped Soviet engineers develop one of the most famous tanks of the Second World War, the T-34. While the T-34 was a completely new design, it inherited important ideas from the BT series, especially its focus on mobility and the Christie suspension. Today, the BT series is remembered as one of the most innovative tank families of the 1930s. It may not have been perfect, but it helped shape the future of armored warfare.